I've pretty much used all NLE systems. Started obviously with linear editing, hybrid linear and nonlinear editing, and then ultimately completely nonlinear editing. So everything from Avid, Premiere, Fast VM Studio, if you remember that system, it was a hybrid system. Final Cut Pro 1 through 7, beta tested for that. And then obviously with DaVinci Resolve coming of late, they added more editing features kind of starting in version 11, but then more so in version 12, and I'll be talking about that. One thing I do want to clarify is I'm an end user, so I am not like an evangelist of, oh, you have to use this NLE because it's better, blah, blah, blah. We still use various NLEs. It just so happens that within the last year, Resolve has been our most used NLE out of the bunch. So just to kind of keep that in mind. So obviously at the production level, we are always thinking about the post-production level, the end kind of spot of what we're going to be doing. So before we even shoot a first frame of footage, we're asking ourselves, are we shooting RAW, are we shooting ProRes, are we doing UHD delivery, HDR, are we doing multicam, is stereoscopic in the mix of this at all? Just all of these things we want to know beforehand before we start actually editing. And with Resolve, a lot of these things are simplified for us. So as some of you know, DaVinci Resolve was basically $1 million package in the high-end suites, pretty much limited here in Hollywood and whatnot. But with Blackmagic Design acquiring DaVinci, they pretty much opened it up to everybody. In August of last year, I decided that we were going to do a video series for a client called Sumo Logic. They're one of the tech companies up in the Bay Area where I'm at. And there was a few videos that they wanted to do in this series, and it was a good time to really see if we could really utilize DaVinci Resolve as an NLE, to see if it had the strengths of some of the other systems that we are using, Premiere, Avid, and so forth, to really see if it could work out. So from that point, when version 12.5 was released, we had about 40 to 50 videos in the can using Resolve. And that was kind of a testament to me of like, okay, this is really working out for us as an editing system beyond just kind of tinkering with it and playing around with it. We actually had real world clients and deadlines and projects under the gun to really see if Resolve could actually work as an editor. So I recently wrote an article, and this is one paragraph from that article, and I just wanted to kind of reread it here. As a working facility that has a solid NLE workflow in place, the very last thing I'd ever want to intentionally do is disrupt that workflow by introducing a new NLE into the mix. In order for me to make that disruption viable, the NLE in question had better be damn professional and up to the task, even so much as to exceed the current abilities of the existing workflow tools. But here's the kicker. Not only is Resolve not a disruption to the current workflow, Resolve literally eliminates complexities in the existing workflow. And starting at the media management level, whenever we've had a project and we've been editing in either Premiere or Avid or whatever it might be, typically we would always use Resolve as the finishing tool. But in order to use it as a finishing tool, we would also use Resolve as a media management tool on the front end before we went out to the other NLEs. But knowing that with Resolve having the new abilities with editing, the media management now carries through into the editing side of it as well. Whether we're doing window dubs, transcodes, proxies, whatever it may be, all of that flows through into the editing stage as well. For us, we typically shoot a lot of raw footage, and even though we can create proxies if we wanted to, more and more now we are actually editing with the raw footage in Resolve and not having to deal with round tripping and conforming and proxies and all this stuff. So the net result of that is we're drastically saving huge amounts of time, storage space because we're not creating the proxies, and there's more accuracy too, just because we're not transcoding and dealing with color space conversions and this and that. So the ability to actually work with with these native raw files within Resolve at the editing stage has been huge for us. One of the cool things too is obviously because Resolve is a grading tool at heart, even at the editing stage, if we're dealing with multicam situations, as long as we have chip charts, we can very, very quickly match the cameras right away. And quite honestly, even if we're only doing single cam production, I'll still throw the chip chart up there anyway, because Resolve has the cool tool where you can literally square up the chip chart and it'll automatically sync the cameras, and just speed-wise, it's really, really cool. So as many of you know, Resolve at the heart is an industry-leading color grading system. I mean, it's so powerful, whether you're dealing with ACEs and HDR. The power windows are amazing with the tracking. Now it's supporting with OpenFX and Resolve Effects plugins. That adds to the enhancement there. And of course, stacking GPUs. If you've got multiple Titan X cards or whatever you're using, your performance gains continually to grow that way as well. With Blackmagic acquiring the Fusion software, they have continually upgraded the ability for Fusion and Resolve to dynamically talk to each other now. So if you do want to do node-based compositing within Fusion, you can basically have the two software applications talk to each other dynamically. It does do a force render, which I actually prefer, so that it's not trying to relink dynamic files, but that the render is actually always there. But if you update something in Fusion, it can automatically update on the Resolve end. So that's actually really cool there too. A little quote I have: if you're not serious about your audio, you're not serious about your video. My audio background actually stems longer than my video background. I actually started audio in the 80s. And for me, audio has always been a very, very serious part of our filmmaking and video production, even at the editing level. And with Resolve, I was happy to see that within the latest updates, they really added a lot of support for VST and AU plugin support as one of the enhancements. What I really like as well is that you have both a clip-based filtration level and a track-based filtration level. So if you want to apply audio plugins just to the clip itself, you can do that, or to the whole track. You can work in mono, stereo, 5.1, dynamic, whatever it may be. And with Blackmagic doing their craziness with all these acquisitions, they also acquired Fairlight, if you haven't read about it. Probably one of the biggest competitors to Pro Tools and whatnot. So hopefully we'll see some of the Fairlight technology creep into Resolve. I don't know if they will or not, but it almost kind of seems like the writing might be on the wall there a little bit. But again, audio has been always a central part of editing, and if Resolve didn't have my kind of level of expectations for audio, then we wouldn't have used it as an editor itself. So it's been really good there. As you probably know, there's the studio version of Resolve, which is $1,000, and then the free version. And what's kind of cool about that is, like for us, we can have, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 studio versions of Resolve as like the powerhouse workstations, and then essentially we can have satellite workstations with the free version, and those could be like assistant editor type roles if you're doing clipping, proxies, transcodes, window dubs, dailies, all the kind of early legwork type things can be done on those stations. And then the main studio stations could be doing more of the powerhouse things, possibly with stacked GPUs and things like that. Resolve does work both locally and remotely with multiple clients, so you can, you know, use it in conjunction from other facilities or other users or whatnot. So some of my top picks for me personally as a facility owner and a user of DaVinci Resolve, obviously at the heart is the color grading system, which has literally been around now for decades with DaVinci Resolve. The advanced tracking you had, the denoising, which incidentally in 12.5 they added more denoising features to it, both spatially temporally, frame-based. You can split the luminance and the chrominance, all these different things. So it really hones down on the type of denoising that you may want to do. A lot of excellent NLE tools on the editing side as well. It pretty much has all the kind of tools you would typically need, from slipping, sliding, any type of cut effects. It does have content aware, so if you're used to Final Cut 10 doing some of the kind of rubber band stuff, there is some content aware functionality within Resolve as well. But your typical sliding, slipping, 3-point editing, things like that are really, really good in Resolve. You can have your basic functionality in terms of editing, and you can do your advanced trimming. It's all optional on how you actually want to use that and set it up. For us, again, the raw workflow has been enormous for us. And if you want, you can also work in full resolution raw, or within the project, you can dynamically set the resolution down so that if your system isn't up to par, you can still work with the native raw file, but it'll play back in half res, quarter res, whatever it may be. And in the end, it's been a huge time saver for us overall in terms of the ease of use, the speed, again with raw, just having editorial and DaVinci Resolve grade quality all in one hosted app, and not having to bounce back between software packages and whatnot has really been huge for us. I recently wrote an article that goes very in-depth about my use with using Resolve as an NLE for the last year, actually a little over a year now. And the link for that is bit.ly/Resolve 1 year. It's a pretty lengthy article, but it does dig a lot deeper than what I've kind of covered here, in case you're interested with that. And with that, my 10 minutes are up. So thanks.
Thanks, Marco.
Thanks.